Hello, Empowered Warriors. Welcome to episode 22. I am so honored, thrilled, and excited to have my next guest on the podcast, my very good friend, my soul sister, Winnie Sher. Winnie and I had such an amazing and expansive conversation regarding the pathway to empowerment and freedom by living fearlessly. If you're listening to this podcast, I suggest listening to the whole thing because, first of all, Winnie has this incredible heart-centered energy, and I feel like anybody will just fall in love with her just by listening to her speak. So, to hear more about Winnie's story and her journey and how she helps people, warriors, I invite you to stay tuned. Welcome to the Empowered Warrior Podcast. My name is Angela Noel, and I am an intuitive coach, acupuncturist, and Chinese herbalist. This podcast is all about empowerment, meaning how you can maintain your personal power in order to have the best life beyond your imagination. An empowered warrior is someone who has the identity of a person who is healthy, radiant, and free from all suffering, and has the tools ready and available to move through life's obstacles with confidence, ease, and a sense of freedom. In this podcast, I bring over 16 years experience in Chinese medicine, countless years of self-development, and a passion for helping others find their personal power. I will be discussing just a few of my favorite topics regarding health from a Chinese medicine perspective, brain habits, and spirituality, so that you can quickly pave your pathway to freedom and be free from the chains that have kept you stuck. My intention with this podcast is to serve as a guide for warriors who want to form a healthy foundation of body, mind, and spirit, and sustain it by changing who they are being from the inside and having a stronger connection to their higher selves. My goal is to help students end the unnecessary suffering that they place on themselves by having poor health habits, negative thought loops, and a lack of self-worth. I'm so happy that you're here. Hello, Empowered Warriors. Welcome. I am so excited to have another guest. This is my second guest on the podcast. My good friend, one of my soul sisters, Winnie Sher. Welcome, Winnie.
Hi, Angela. Hi, Empowered Warriors. So happy to be here.
I am so happy to have you here. This is just such an honor and a thrill. And warriors, you may or may not know that Winnie is just this incredible human being. We've known each other for maybe almost 2 years now, but it feels like, I don't know, many lifetimes.
It probably has been many lifetimes, actually, Angela.
I think so. So, Winnie, why don't you tell us, the warriors, who you are, what you do, and how you help people?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, I'm Winnie, and I live in London, in the UK, and I used to work in corporate, so I'm actually an ex-accountant, and then I decided to follow my heart, follow my path, and help people to become who they really want to be, really create the results that they wanted to be, and they wanted to create in their lives. So after 12 years, after enduring a 12-year career in corporate, I decided to say goodbye to that and devote the next chapter of my life to helping women to become who they create themselves to be and live fearlessly. So this concept of fearlessness is really, really alive for me right now. Because for me, fearless doesn't mean absence of fear. I see the word, I break it into two. I see two words: fearless. So, yeah, I feel less. Yes. When I saw it like that, the power really comes back, because when we say fearless, sometimes we can quickly go, then I must somehow overcome or kind of bypass any fear that I'm feeling in order to pursue my dreams. And what I've noticed is what actually happens is we dissolve that fear when we meet it. We fear less with every forward action that we take. So that's what I love to show people and help them to create their dreams from that place.
I love that. That is really powerful. And I love how you are addressing it as this in two separate words, and how you talk about, I mean, the only way to get through fear, right, is to address it step by step by step, right? In tiny little action steps.
Exactly. We can break it down into steps. And it's a bit like if we have to climb a mountain, looking at the mountain, it just feels, it can feel like insurmountable, right? It can feel really hard. But actually, how do we climb it? We take steps towards the summit. Yeah.
And it's so natural, or not natural, but I feel like it's such an accepted standard. Don't get me started about talking about society, but in society, to be in this state of overwhelm and stress, and like that's almost like, it's honestly and sadly, in my interpretation, I feel like that's what sells to people, right? Is to be in overwhelm and stress. Therefore, you need this, whether it be a medication or a product. But what you're saying is that is not necessary, right? We can break it down and make it manageable. And it's so simple. That's what I love about that. It's so simple and not necessary to be in this state of overwhelm.
Right. Yeah, I completely hear that, because actually it's almost like a badge of honor, isn't it? Like nowadays, it's like the more we pack onto our plates, the more stress we create. It's almost like, oh, it's and then we complicate it by saying, well, the way out of that is I don't know, some new like procedure, some new medication, or it's something else. And it's almost like our minds have been trained, right, to kind of go, well, I created this really complicated situation, so there must be a complicated way out of it.
Yeah.
And actually it's super simple.
It's so simple.
It's simple. It's like, start with the basics. Actually, what is it that you really want? What is it that you really want to create? And then what's one step you can take towards that? And when you've done that, what's the next step? And then the step after that. It's so simple, yet our minds kind of want to complicate it. And it's
the ego, right? The human brain needs, it functions really well when it has the steps, right? Our 3D ego, like, all right, step 1, I'm going to do this. And step 2, and I need to know how to do it. And it must be done in steps, and there must be protocol. And I love what you're saying, that it really is just one by one, little by little. Yeah. So I'm curious how specifically you got involved in helping people this way, and what causes you to be so passionate about this project.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for me, I enjoyed the learning. I enjoyed the technical aspects of my job. I used to work as a tax accountant, interpreting tax rules, and then latterly in banking, interpreting banking rules. And I really loved that part. But what I loved more was helping people. So I just remembered, I loved being a mentor, really imparting my knowledge, but helping those people, helping people coming through after me to really grow into their roles. So for me, that piece around that personal development, I used to just drink it up all of the time. Even when I was younger, I don't know if it's the same with you. When I was at university, I think my shelf was just full of, apart from the textbooks, the other part of my bookshelf was full of self-help books. I loved self-help books. It was incredible. It was I was always questioning, why do I feel this way? How can I help myself out of it? So the idea of being able to do this as my, my work, my full-time work, was just, it was both exciting and scary to me, leaving behind that old world, but also stepping into this new one. And what I'm most interested in, what's really alive in my path as a coach and as the person living my life, is this piece around, we really do have the power to create exactly the lives that we want to.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my earlier career, part of me wanted to train as an accountant because it was a career that my parents understood and I wanted to make them proud, and all of those things. So whilst there was a choice, I did choose that career. Also, it was born out of expectation as well, other people's expectations that I'd taken on. And what I really see now is like, when we see that, when we can really unpick what is our belief, what is actually truly ours, mine, versus what was given to me, what had I acquired, and it's actually someone else's belief.
Mm-hmm.
And then seeing, well, which ones serve us, right? Because it's okay. I might have adopted a belief from, my school teacher and it really empowers me now. So I'm going to keep it. But what if it doesn't? What if someone has said, well, you're only going to be a success at life if you're an accountant? And that doesn't empower me because I don't want to be an accountant anymore. I can let that go. So when I see that, oh, wow, I could let that go. I could choose a new life, choose a new path. It was like, wow, a whole new world opens up.
So freeing.
It's freeing. And for me, that's the path to empowerment. It's like, we can create anything we wish to.
Anything we wish to. And I feel like your story, first of all, I had zero idea that I did not know you were an accountant. I sent you that in our chatting, or maybe you mentioned it on the retreat. Winnie and I we actually met in a spiritual retreat about a year, almost 2 years ago, for the first time with my very first business coach, Anna. Yeah. So anyway, I missed that part. But what I would like to mention is that your story about going from, the desire to please, right? Mm-hmm. Please your parents, please your teachers, by being an accountant, which is so common, right? With so many kids, right? I mean, how the heck are we supposed to know? Some kids know, like they come out of the womb and they're like, I want to be a veterinarian. I want to be a fire person, right? So, I mean, the fact that you mentioned that you left a job that was, I'm assuming, very stable, right? Very comfortable. And then you went out, because one of the things that I work on with clients, most of my clients are entrepreneurs, but some of them are just ready to leave their jobs, right? And when somebody approaches me and they need that kind of help, I'm like, yes, I cannot wait to help you, because when we leave that job, whether it's something that sucked your soul or it was just not in alignment anymore with the client, with you, whomever, there is this power. It opens up this possibility. It's very expansive to, like, there's no longer that space that was occupied by that job is not there anymore.
Right.
So energetically, it just brings in, okay, what is it that I am supposed to do?
Right. Yeah. It's like, I have choice now. The image that's coming to me is a bit like someone has given you a red jacket and told you to wear the jacket, that red jacket throughout all time. And you've woken to the fact you're like, well, I don't even like the color red and I don't even like the fit of this jacket. Why am I required to keep this jacket on? If the jacket being a metaphor for our career or something that we don't love or love anymore. It's like, why am I required to keep this on if actually, I don't want to? So the freedom I hear you speaking to is like taking that off, right? Taking that jacket off. Now we can go shopping, right?
Now we can go and shop for a purple jacket, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. We can go for anything we love, following our heart. And then I really love what you said about like creating that space. It can feel like shackles, can't it? When we're doing something that's not truly from our heart, when it carries with it like expectations of others or even your own self-imposed expectations, or perhaps there were expectations that at one point were true and now they're outdated. They're no longer true, but we hadn't, thought, oh, maybe I should review this, right? Is this still true for me? So there is a freedom in letting go of that, because then when we let go and we create space, we're literally creating that space to invite more insight, more of what we love. Yeah, more of what we love. And I feel imprisoned by somebody else's standards, somebody else's expectations, somebody else's
rules, right? So when we let that go, when we realize this is not for me anymore, and we invite, sometimes it's not even a matter of inviting, it just comes in. It's like the divine comes in and speaks to us. Okay, this is your mission. This is your dharma. This is what you're meant to do. And that's what I'm hearing happen to you with leaving your accounting job.
Oh, yes. I've been like, there've been lots of different tests along the way. I remember like the very last 9 months of the job that I was in before I left corporate. My boss had said, we'd actually love you to kind of move on to this other role. Like, would you like to? And I didn't. He knew that one day I wanted to transition out of corporate and become a coach. And I said, no, like, thank you very much for considering me, but this is not a path that I wish to go down. And actually, I think I was blessed with a very like open and understanding boss, because his next question was, well, what would you love then, Winnie? What do you want? So I said, actually, I would like to spend like half of my time, continue as I am, on this project that I'm working on. I was working on at the time. I'd like to tie that up, but spending half of my week working on this, and then the other half on unpaid leave, effectively, so that I can start taking those steps towards creating my coaching business. And I was scared to ask that, because I thought, who's going to be up for that? I mean, you know, I'm making some unreasonable request on my terms. Am I creating something that I want, but it might not work for them? Anyway, I know, who am I? Crazy? Of course they're going to say no.
Who do you think you are?
Yeah, who do I think I am? I was like, hey, he asked me the question. I've got nothing to lose here. I'm going to ask. Ask. So it surprised me that later on in the week, he said, yes, I've consulted with the rest of the leadership team. Yes, we'll meet your request. So you can spend half of the week working with us, and then the other half of the week it's unpaid leave. You work on your business. And I remember thinking, oh my God, that's so scary. It's kind of happening, right? It's like, oh my God, am I creating this? And I didn't see that. I was starting to see this, this whole creating perspective, right? But I didn't fully see it then as I see it now. I was like, wow, we really do create as we speak.
I have chills.
We really do. Our words have the power to create. He could have said yes, he could have said no, right? But the fact that I had to speak it to begin with in order for that possibility to even open up. If I had stayed in my head and thought, oh, no, I don't think they're going to say yes. So in fact, I think they're going to say no. So I'm just not going to ask, because I don't want to hear the no. If I'd stay there, that possibility would never have opened up. So the creating as we speak, the way I see it is, you create new possibilities, you open up new channels when you speak and you ask, because unless you do, you don't know which roads are going to open up.
That's right. That's beautiful.
So I think that's a real takeaway, actually, for the warriors, right?
Huge takeaway. Oh man, I'm just loving this conversation, because it's just, I feel like it's flowing, and these lessons that are coming through are just, I mean, Winnie and I we don't have a script. We're just
we're jamming, aren't we? It's live conversation.
But one of my mentors says we speak our words into existence. Everything, every thought, every word. So, right, words are preceded by thought, right?
Yes.
And thoughts, I think, are preceded by energy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just an incredible lesson and testament, Winnie, to the importance of minding our thoughts and our words and our energy at all times. Because even if we're not thinking it, right, we're like, all right, I'm not going to think it. There's still that energy behind it.
We create it. Yeah. It's still being created. So actually being so intentional with aligning our thoughts and our speaking and our feeling, aligning all of it is so key.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to share another example of how I created, right?
Yeah,
there's another thoughts become things. So
yes,
following on,
right?
Yeah. So following on from that situation with the boss and saying, okay, you can work half the week. I remember thinking, okay, well, this is scary, right? Because I was like, am I speaking my reality? And there was a part of me, because this is like 1 foot in the old, 1 foot towards the new. I was scared, because I was like going out like no one else around me was doing this. It was just me, like transition out of corporate. And I remember thinking, I reckon this project, there's no way this project would be tied up in 6 months. Not because of anything I'm going to do. I just know that, the way that, corporates work, there's just a lot of bureaucracy. Timelines are always getting like pushed out. And I thought, so on one hand, I'm excited, right? I'm starting to create my new future. And then on the other hand, I'm also thinking, well, maybe towards the end of the year, maybe they might ask me to stay for a little bit longer. And maybe I might stay a bit longer because I might need a bit more money to save up to before I finally make the leap. I was in this kind of slight wishy-washiness, like as in I wasn't fully ready to let go. I just remember having that thought. It was funny because, so I was due to leave at the end of December. Come November, I'd forgotten about this, by the way, this thought between whenever it was, like April to November. Come November time, my boss did sit me down and said, yeah, so Winnie, look, I think I know what you're going to say, but, my bosses are asking, they've asked me to ask you anyway. Would you be willing to stay longer? We need your help on this project. Basically, name how long you would be willing to stay and, we'll sign it off. So it was almost, and this is quite rare, right? In the environment I was working in, normally it was like, they're extending by a certain amount of time. They're very clear. I mean, it was a voice from the universe, right? It was a test from the universe. The universe was tickling me to go, how committed are you, Winnie, to this, creating this new world? Because, it was a bit like a blank check. It was like, well, you can stay for as long as you like. And nobody would have batted an eyelid, right? I could completely have justified it. In fact, I did start to justify it. So maybe I could stay another 6 months. And I remember speaking to my coach at the time about this. And she just turned around and said, look, this is like a crunch point. Like, what is it that you actually want? Are you hanging on to the old, or are you ready to step into the new?
Oh, powerful question.
Right? Yeah. Yes. Oh, now I'm getting goosebumps. Yeah. It was like, and the reason I'm sharing this with everyone is because the path of change is never easy and it's never straightforward. When people say, oh, yes, I made this leap, there's a lot of there's 1,000 decisions that go before that leap, right? There's a step forward, there's a step back. And I want to illustrate that there is difficulty there, right? Because I really was on the fence. I did want more money, of course, because I was scared, safety net. At the same time, I knew that if I'd stayed, it would have been more of what I was choosing to move away from. So I wouldn't really be creating a new reality for myself. And I could energetically, I could feel that. I felt very stuck when I thought about if this was just purely about the money. I knew that was what I was wanting to move away from in order to go into my coaching work. I felt this stuckness, and basically I got really, really still. And I was like, what is it that I truly, truly want? And it was to take a leap into the unknown. It's like, the reason I feel scared is because I've never created this before. So of course I'm going to feel scared. If I'd already created it, I knew what was coming, then it would be a very easy decision. There would be no tension.
Yeah.
The fact that this tension is actually a gift, it's actually a friend. This tension is the point of choice, right? Not because there's a right choice or a wrong choice. I believe that whatever choices we make, they're always there to help us and to educate us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But one choice was going to take me down back through another iteration of recreating an old pattern, which is safety, not willing to leave yet, expectation. And the other path was going to be okay, I don't know, it's a new road, but let's see. And I cannot get this. What if I trusted I could not get this wrong? And I'll just discover new things about me along the way. So when I noticed that, and there was tension, right? So the tension feels different. I don't know if you've had this for yourself, notice this for yourself, Angela, when you've had to make these difficult decisions, right? The tension is always there, but just the quality of the tension is different. One feels restrictive and and the other tension is there's an excitement.
There's an excitement.
There's an effervescence, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and possibility. It's the effervescence of possibility.
Yeah.
So I chose that. Oh. So I did. I went back and I said, thank you so much for considering me again. I feel so blessed. I'm like, wow, you trust me, you love me, you want me to stay in this role because you know what I can do. And I said, I'm following my heart. I'm choosing this different path.
And what
So
I'm
I feel
hearing you say too, Winnie, is that there was this energetic vibration. Almost sounds like there's no accidents, right? Like
right.
if you really want to go into the woo here, like everything in our life is like contracted before
Yes.
we're even born, right? So you found this job, right? It was no accident. It sounds like it was a pretty good job. You had a really
Yes.
wonderful, supportive boss, and you chose that path long ago, right? I truly believe that, we pick these things, right? I mean, yes, we have our free will, right?
Yes.
There's no doubt. Like that's what makes us human. That's our navigation through the human body. But at the same time, there is this other part
Hmm.
where we are being led to go to the places that we need to be in order to receive the lessons and make the choices to go on to the next thing. And from what I'm hearing you say is this job, it was kind of I think a lot of people talk about that pivotal moment
Hmm.
where they were in this place, whether it be a job or a friendship or a relationship or family event at the dinner table, where it's like, okay, my life changed. And that's what I'm hearing from you, is that's really, you had a pretty good job
Yeah.
with a really nice boss, and he was kind of helping you. He's like, you can stay or you can also go, and it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love too what you said about just that, like the differences in energy, because I think a lot of people struggle with that still, for lack of a better word, struggle with how do I know when I'm being led, and when I'm being led, when I'm getting that information from a kind of being divinely guided or intuition, higher self guided, and when it's coming from a place of fear and stuck and resistance. And the way you describe it is the fear, stuck, and resistance feels just like that. It feels
Heavy.
heavy.
Mm.
And I feel like, even in talking, I feel this sensation in my chest, like,
Mm.
oh, it feels heavy in my chest. Whereas the other one, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of scared, but this is exciting. I get some palpitations, but that's the feeling of blood moving through my body and being alive
Yeah.
and being like energized and ready for the next thing. So whew,
Yes.
that's
As you,
powerful.
it is powerful. As you were saying that, Angela, that effervescence for me, I'm seeing now is like, that's the energy of creation.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like that bubbling of like, oh, something new is about to emerge.
Mind me, I talk about a lot of things on this podcast. So if you're okay with me saying, what I'm hearing is it's a spiritual orgasm.
Yes,
It's
completely.
creation, which is,
Spirit.
sexual energy is the same thing as creation energy. It's birthing of this new thing. And I am just so happy for you. And, Winnie, I have seen how far you've come in such a short amount of time. And I think what comes to me is that when we were talking before this, we pressed record, is that transformation, we as humans often think that it takes forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually happens pretty fast when we're in alignment.
Exactly. Quantum leaps, right?
Quantum leaps.
Quantum leaps, and they can happen like that. Oftentimes we think, oh, our progression needs to be linear, A to B to C to D. So what if it's from A to Z, or A to Z, as you guys would
A to
say,
Z,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
Right? Even A to Z.
Yeah.
It's totally possible, because you know the universe doesn't differentiate. It's us humans that think, and perhaps this is partly our schooling as well, right? You progress from like the first grade to the second grade to the third grade. You learn addition, then subtraction, then multiplication. There seems to be like a linear order to things, right? But actually, once you have the foundational, like the basics, who says you can't leap from one like possibility straight into something else, like 10 times more, like 10 times greater. Yes, I agree. It's down to like alignment. It's like when we feel fully aligned with
Yeah.
what we're going for, boom, all miracles can happen.
all miracles can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to recognize, and I wanted to circle back to something that you said before when kind of implying the overnight success story, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it
Mm-hmm.
takes, I can't remember exactly how you worded it, but you have this amazing ability you're very eloquent, Winnie, where, oftentimes we see these overnight successes like, oh, where'd she come from? She's all of a sudden a millionaire. Like, and it's often that's not the case, right? I think I heard a statistic that it takes 7 years to create a success, and that's average. So for some people it's longer, some people it may happen in a year. But to that point too, is knowing that it can take time, but at the same time, it doesn't always take time.
Right.
Well, what is time anyway? But the quantum leaps that you talked about, like once we decide, not even decide, but align with our higher self,
Right.
it can be very, very quick.
Yes, absolutely.
Very fast.
So alignment is key. And then those decisions each time, decisions to keep moving forward, right?
Yes.
So, absolutely. It's that simple, isn't it? So, circling back to what we were talking about at the beginning, it's like, I don't know about you. Sometimes my brain wants to complicate things. No, it can't be that easy. It's like, yeah, it is. It is that simple.
It is easy. It is easy. And, not to discount, those of you out there that are feeling that things are hard, because I think part of the human existence, right, is to navigate through the hard, right? But I think what Winnie and I are trying to convey is the hard is part of the lesson, and we can always choose. So I don't know about you, but this past week, we're recording this on October 3rd. We had the full moon on October 1st. This is 2020. And last week felt freaking hard.
Yes. Yes, it did.
It felt freaking hard. However, that is not an invitation. I mean, there were times, I'm going to be completely candid, I wanted to lay under my weighted blanket and not come out for like 3 or 4 days. However, what happened was this beautiful succession of releases. And okay, this is coming up. Okay, it's time to let this go, right? So what we often look at, we're not taught this in school, right? The hard is so hard. Those are just invitations.
Yeah.
To grow.
Yes, exactly.
And evolve and let go of the crap that we get entangled in.
Totally. And we can we can hand it over, right? It's like, again, who said that just because something's hard or it feels heavy, we're not required to hold on to it?
No.
We can choose to let go. We can put anything that we wish to let go of. Put all of that heaviness, put all of whatever is not wanting to stay, put it all into that hot air balloon and let it float away into the sky.
Oh, I love that imagery. Yeah. And whatever makes sense to you, warriors. I had I think it was Anna that had this meditation where you just send everything into this giant flower and, shoot it off into space. Whatever makes sense to you. Burning, some people, not that I recommend, of course, responsible burning of your journals. Yeah. I did that with the last full moon. Whatever makes sense to let go of what no longer serves you. So beautiful. What a beautiful conversation.
Yes, this is a very beautiful conversation. Potent.
Totally potent. And, I think we had some other things that I know we talked about discussing. You had quite a journey recently. I would love for you to just share your journey recently in the last 2 years or so of what happened with you, because I feel that this can help so many people if they hear about your health journey.
Yeah, I'd love to share. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I have type 1 diabetes, and I've had it for 26 years. So it's 26 years this year. But a year ago, so this was about, I think it's June, July 2019, I'd slowly been putting on weight, and I wasn't exercising, and I wasn't paying a lot of attention to what I was eating. So all this was meaning was that like my health markers they were just completely out of target. So my blood pressure was high, my blood sugar was high, my cholesterol was high. So things kind of came to a bit of a head, like in like June, July time last year, when I saw, actually, this is what happened. I went to a friend's wedding, and the dress I'd bought earlier in the year to wear, I couldn't fit into anymore. And I was like, what? Was really looking forward to wearing this dress. So I had to wear a different dress, an older dress. And that waistband was just like, you know, my belly was just like kind of really resting on the waistband because it was a fitted dress. And I was like, I feel really uncomfortable. And I remember spending that whole evening, whenever somebody was taking a picture of me, I was thinking, just feeling really self-conscious. I don't feel particularly good, and, you know, worried that I wasn't going to look that good. And when I saw the pictures, like a couple of days later, I was shocked. I was shocked at how big I'd become. Not because I hated my body. So this was the ironic thing, because I had spent a couple of years before that on this deep journey of like really loving my body exactly as I was. Getting super vulnerable here, and I feel like completely okay with doing it because I feel this is an important part of my journey too. So I'm Chinese, and I grew up feeling like the big girl, because a lot of Chinese women, you know, they're naturally, they have slim frames. My mum's side of the family is not built like that. We're kind of bigger, so I'd always felt like a bit of a giant, and I'd been told that as well, like by various family members and adults and friends and stuff. So I grew up with all this imagery of like, I'm fat, basically. It's how I judge myself. I'm fat. So prior to last year, I'd been on this like 2-year like healing journey, effectively, just to love myself as a Chinese woman, curvier Chinese woman. And I learned to love my curves. So it was ironic in a way that it came to summer of last year, and I was looking at this picture of me, and my thought was, this is not a picture of health. So it was nothing to do with like, oh, I look fat because I hate my body. It was like, no, this does not look healthy. And from a diabetes point of view, I'm storing up a lot of problems for the future, which I don't want. I want to live a long, full life. I want to create massive impact, you know, through my time on this earth. And I want to have like mega amounts of fun doing it. And I can only do that if I have a healthy, strong body. So that was the turning point for me. And I knew, again, so this is like intuition. Like my body literally told me, it was like, you have to do something about it. You have to do something about it. And, you know, I tried kind of dieting and exercise in the past. I'd never really like stuck through with it. So I decided to hire a personal trainer. And, you know, then the usual conversation was like, oh, that's a bit of an indulgence. And then it's like this inner voice, my inner knowing's like, no, you need an expert. And I was like, well, my clients hire me as an expert to help them create change in their lives. This is the same. I don't have expertise in the area of health and fitness, because if I did, I would have created it already, right? So I was like, okay, you know, like, I'm hiring my own expert, my health and fitness expert. So that's what I did. And it was interesting because I knew in my heart, I was like, there's no way I can get this wrong. There's no way I can fail. Because as long as I keep putting one foot in front of the other, as long as I keep following, you know, follow the program, follow the exercise, follow the nutrition program, I know that I will create results. What I didn't know was like, I had like what I would look like. So the other piece to this journey is, as I was saying earlier, I've been big all of my life. So my weight has always fluctuated between 70 and 80 kilos. And so what's that? It's 140 to 160 pounds, something like that. So I've been a bit lighter, I've been a bit heavier, but it's almost like I've got this range, right? It's like my inner thermostat was like, no lighter than 70, 80 was probably like the higher end. So to be a healthy weight, I needed to be down in the 60s. My weight needed to be down in the 60s. So once I passed like the 70 kilo mark and my weight continued to drop, it was like I'm creating this new version of me. And that in itself was a separate journey in terms of like just like letting my eyes catch up with like the reality of like how my body was transforming. But I guess the point I'm wanting to make here is like I embarked on this journey without knowing how it would work out. I knew I had this strong intention, and that was what was guiding me. it's not like, I've been 60 kilos once. Well, the only time was the year I was diagnosed with diabetes. So aside from that, I hadn't been that size. So it's not like I ever had a reference point in my adult life of being that weight. So I was walking into the unknown and just keeping faith through one step in front of the other, one step in front of the, one foot in front of the other, continuing it. And at the same time, as my weight kind of approached the 60 kilo, no, 60, I think it might have been the 63 kilo mark. If I remember rightly, the year I was diagnosed, I think my weight had dropped. It was in the 60s, it was in the lower 60s. So the only other time I kind of see myself at that weight was the year that I developed diabetes. And I could just hear like all of my cells, my mind going, oh, you're getting ill again. So really meeting that, first of all, bringing awareness to that, and then really teaching myself, my cells, my mind, like literally aligning mind, body and spirit, because the body was going one way, right? The body was like, I'm shedding all of these pounds and this is great. This is great for the blood pressure, the cholesterol, the blood sugar. But my mind was starting to freak out. It's like, but you're getting ill. And my weight did stall for a while. For a good few weeks, it wouldn't move. And I knew that it wasn't because I wasn't following the plan. It wasn't because I wasn't exercising or eating, I was following everything. It was my mind. So that's where the mindset and then the energy work came in as well, was just to really teach myself, look, this is actually a really positive thing here. I'm not taking away life, I'm giving life to myself. There's like a distinction in there. It was like, we're not dying, cells, we're not dying, we're living. This is going to enable us to live. And again, that same tension that I talked about earlier, it was the same. It was like the fear of like, but we're dying, had the heaviness. But we're living, had like the effervescence. So to choose that, to keep choosing that and seeing with,
That's power. That's really, really, I don't think I've ever heard of I hate the term weight loss. I'm not a fan of it, but what I'm hearing is this process of not just happening in your physical body, mind, body, and spirit, but of letting go, of releasing.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. So it wasn't just a matter of physical health, right? But it was also this journey and this process of, again, those lessons along the way that you learn, right? The body naturally is going to want to go into survival mode and say, help, I'm dying, right? Because this is a change, a completely new paradigm for your body.
Yeah.
And you had your mind there saying, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going because this is the right thing for us at this particular time. Does that sound, am I picking that? Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yeah, exactly. It's, and this is back to the alignment piece, right? That you were talking about earlier. It's like alignment means aligning mind, body, and spirit in my book, because it's like, it's just very interesting to see what comes up, right? How we can easily sabotage ourselves.
Yeah.
Hold ourselves, not even sabotage us, and but we can just hold ourselves back, right? Because actually, without the awareness of like some of these subconscious things that can be happening, and all they're doing is they're wanting just to be heard. Because like with my mind, with my cells, right? It's like, originally I kind of judged them, but it's like, hang on, I'm doing all this hard work here. I'm exercising. I'm eating healthily. Why are you still not, why is the weight not moving? And it's like, oh, of course I'm going to like love them and forgive them for like thinking this way, because the last time this happened, the imprint, the only reference point they had was like death. So that was like
when you were diagnosed, right?
Yeah, like I was very ill. That's the time I was diagnosed. I mean, it was literally like my cells were dying because my body had stopped producing insulin. So I was in effect kind of dying. If I hadn't started the insulin therapy at some point, that would have happened. So I don't say that to be dramatic. I say that as like that is, that's like the potential reality. So no wonder like my body and my cells were going, oh my God, but don't you remember like all those years ago this happened? And to kind of re-educate and go, oh, I love you so much, and give them like, a big hug. It's like comforting them and going, okay, and it's okay. And here's why it's okay, because this time around it's different. it's not death. We're not dying. We're living. We're living. We're
We're living.
living.
But it's interesting that you bring up the death piece, and this is not, I'm not being, morbid or anything, but I do think that when we go through these changes, there is a death that happens. There's a part of us that does die. And, in spirituality, they call it ego death or shamanic death or whatever makes sense to you. But there is a part, I do think, that needs to die off in order to grow and be into that next level. So in other words, for the warriors out there who are listening and they have businesses, for example, we talk about business and money. In order to have that life, right, that you want, the abundance that you want, the health that you want, the business that you want, there is part of you that has to go. Has to die. Because, and we're not talking about, actual dying, like leaving the planet. We're talking about like that, the death of the ego, the part of us that wants to keep us safe, that wants to, remember like, oh, remember like, when this happened before and it was really sad and you got sick and you cried and stuff. We don't want to go there anymore. We don't want to go there anymore. But that's the part that, okay, you like you said, you nurtured it. I know. Thank you so much for protecting me. But you can go now.
Yeah.
You can go now. I'm okay. I'm okay. So, and there's so many beautiful processes that you can use in order to let go.
Definitely.
But I think this conversation is just a beautiful reminder, Winnie, this whole thing of A, what's possible, B, what change feels like. For those of you that are maybe a little less on the woo side, but kind of curious, what change and evolution feels like. It often feels like, I don't swear on this podcast because kids listen, but it feels like, what, right? It feels like crap. It feels horrible.
Yeah.
But that's transformation. It's messy. So
it is. And
what a beautiful thing.
It is. And I just love to add up one piece about dying, because what I hear from what you said, Angela, is when that part of us dies, it's actually part of our old identity that dies. So we die to our old identity because we're creating a new one. We're making space for a new one. So, and if we look around the whole universe, the whole planet Earth, right, we're full of birth and rebirth, death and rebirth cycles, right? It's like, surely as that spring follows like winter, winter follows spring, it's cyclical, right? Nothing is ever like, we have to live forever. Death is a natural part of progression of life.
It's very symbolic of what we're talking about. The cyclical piece is very symbolic of what we're talking about as the inevitable, right? And depending on what you believe, people have a lot of opinions about what death means. But yeah, I think this is a good reminder that life doesn't have to be so darn serious all the time, and death is inevitable. And even while we're living, we experience death.
Yes.
Parts of us die off to make room for that new identity.
Yeah. Well, even in our bodies, don't our cells renew themselves every 28 days or something like that? It's, there's that happening within us, right, as we live. Exactly.
And what keeps coming through in this conversation too is this notion that in order to have what we want, we need to work from that new identity, right? Even if we're not completely convinced that it's there yet. So we need to work from that point B. Einstein said, what did he say? We cannot solve problems from where they were originally created. That's not the exact quote. So a lot of people who struggle and say, I'm trying this thing and that thing, and I can't lose weight, or I'm not building the business that I want. It's because oftentimes they're working from that point A, from that person where the problem started, but not the point B. And I think you said A through Z or something earlier. So I love this. I love everything that you had to say. And man, wow, I think we've talked for over an hour, so I want to be respectful of your time. It is Saturday, after all. Thank you for meeting with me on a Saturday. I do have just a couple of quick questions, and hopefully I'm not surprising you with these, but I don't think I will. First of all, what does impact mean to you?
Impact. It's a great question. For me, impact means doing like what you're here to do on this planet, helping those people that you're here to help, living your fullest life, being the fullest expression of you, being unapologetically you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, I love your passion so much, Winnie, and I love you.
Oh, thank you. I love you too. I'm so grateful for you and what we co-create when we're together.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I feel like, honestly, I feel like we could continue having this conversation for much longer, but maybe you can come back someday if you're open to it. We can have round 2.
Yeah, I'd love that. I would love that.
Awesome. So last question, Winnie, is how can people find you online?
Aha, yes. So you can find me either on Instagram at I am Winnie Sher, on Facebook or LinkedIn or my website, winniesher.com. So they'll be put in the show notes, I think, right? So
it'll be put in the show notes. And for those of you that want to know right now and don't want to go to the show notes, it's Winnie, like Winnie, Winnie, Sher, Sher.
Yeah.
Thank you, Winnie, so much. So much gratitude to you, so much love to you. And thank you so much for just helping the people that you're helping, for making the impact that you're making, for showing up and being here today. It's been a pleasure and an honor to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast, Angela. And blessings to you and the Empowered Warriors.
Thank you. Okay, warriors, so that concludes today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to get in touch with Winnie if you have any questions, if you have any takeaways on this episode. You can tag me or Winnie on Instagram. I am Angela Noel, or I am Winnie Sher. Thank you so much and have an amazing day. And remember to go out and make an impact. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Empowered Warrior podcast. It is an honor and a privilege to have you as a listener. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast and would like to help others pave their pathway to freedom, end their disempowerment and suffering, and become an empowered warrior, please share this podcast with your friends and family. Also, it is my intention to help humanity grow and evolve to their highest potential. So if you really enjoy what you're hearing, please help me spread the word by leaving a review in iTunes. Thank you again, and I am so grateful to be able to serve you in this very exciting way.